Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining Ryan Brooker's Ryan Connect knowledge dissemination sessions. Today we would be discussing the challenges and opportunities being faced by procurement professionals. Just to inform you, we would be recording this session for our internal compliances. Feel free to post your questions on the right-hand top side of the tool that is being mentioned as questions. We would be taking these questions towards the end of the session. So as I was explaining, we would be discussing the current opportunities, challenges, and trend on the procurement professionals that we are facing today. We are seeing some extremely difficult cases of supply chain disruption these days. We have two eminent speakers with us today, Mr. Suresh Chandrasekharan and Mr. Kumar Mallampalli. They will be discussing on the topic I have spoken. Suresh Chandrasekharan, Chief Solution Architect, Ryan Brooker Consulting. Suresh, he is a Chief Solution Architect of Ryan Brooker IT Consulting. He has over 20 years of experience in solution architecture, pre-sales, and consulting, and has successfully implemented ERP solutions across the world. As a Chief Solutions Architect, Suresh comes with immense technical know-how and provides technical leadership and strategy in the domain of IT enterprise across industries. His expertise enables the strategic development and management of new solutions and providing innovative solutions to customers to address business challenges and ensure sustainable growth. The second speaker of today is Kumar Mallampalli. He's a Managing Director, Ryan Brooker Consulting India. He's a partner and co-founder of Ryan Brooker IT Consulting, Head of Delivery, Head of Operations, and Global Marketing. He has been providing solutions in the area of ERP, portals and collaborations, and product development in global delivery model for mid-market segment focused across global regions. Kumar has been building and nurturing startups and provides strong vision and leadership in technology and marketing strategy. He has been spearheading different business domains and global delivery excellence centers for very large automotive account, delivering a range of services globally for multi-year engagements, as well as very large European airlines. He comes with very strong domain capabilities on the airlines, automotive, auto supplies, strategic sourcing, and general manufacturing. My name is Srikanth Ramakrishnan. I would be the moderator for today's discussion. I've been working in IT industry for more than 2 decades, largely focusing on IT delivery, managing center of excellences, and building large delivery teams, predominantly on the strategic IT transformations. Currently, I've been building and managing a partner ecosystem for Ryan Brooker, through which Ryan Brooker would be providing cutting-edge solutions to our esteemed customers in this region. So far, we have inducted nearly 6 partners, and 4 more are in the process of incubation. We would be providing our industry-focused solutions through these channels, and partners will be empowered to do successful business transformations to customers. With the current challenges and opportunities procurement professionals face, we are seeing some extremely strong cases of supply chain disruptions in recent time. There is a very clear need of supply chain professionals to adapt these challenges and come out gracefully with a solution. We will talk about this today. Additionally, we would also discuss how procurement professionals can adapt to the evolving trends in the supply chain management to their best advantage, and discuss innovative methodology approaches and best practices to optimize the sourcing process. And also, we would discuss the role of technology that can address the procurement challenges that is being discussed. Those would be a high-level umbrella of discussion today. I would request Suresh to touch up the point. What are the key pain areas, Suresh, would you think about, that are impacting the supply chain today? Would you please throw some light?
Hey, good afternoon to all of you. Thanks, Sri. Thanks for setting up the stage. And if you look at it, we are going through an unprecedented situation, right? It's a time which we haven't faced in the past. Now, organizations are relooking at the strategy, right? Earlier, the focus was mainly on growth and innovation. These days, people are looking at productivity and efficiency in what they are doing, right? From that aspect, if you look at the pains, I would say technology can do quite a bit in supply chain and especially in improving efficiency and productivity, right? The supply, especially the technology, is not playing the real role, and it is not working as an enabler in most of the organization. Is one of the biggest pain point when you look at the list of pain points, right? So if you look at it, technology can help organization to bring efficiency in supply chain, right? Either if you take a subset of it, actually from the supply side of it, take a simple thing as procurement, right? The procurement, the way the time people take in terms of identifying and onboarding suppliers, right? Especially these tough times, it is important for you to identify suppliers, and we should not be taking too long in terms of onboarding a supplier, right? Most of the organizations, if you look at 80% of the mid-market companies are still relying on spreadsheets and manual documents to complete their procurement needs, actually. And that is where the technology can play a big role, especially try to bring in a collaborated platform where supplier and the buyers can communicate and speed up the whole process and bring in efficiency there, right? The second important point is basically the way in which we are dealing with the suppliers, actually, right? And generally, us and when we have a procurement need, we go and talk to the suppliers, route the RFP or send the RFP to 10 or 15 vendors, shortlist one and move on with that, right? We are not investing in suppliers, actually. We are not dealing with the suppliers more to make them a more strategic in nature, right? So us and when the supplier become more efficient, when they save out to their bottom line, some portion of us that is going to be shared with us as well, right? So we should be talking about more about values rather than a price negotiation, right? When it comes to quality, when it comes to overall technology capabilities of the suppliers. So invest in the suppliers, develop them and get the best out of them, and that is what we should be focusing. That is not what most of the organizations are doing today, right? It is overall a big shift in the approach in which we are dealing with the supplier, right? So one is technology, what technology should play, what role the technology should play. The second thing is basically the way in which we treat our suppliers and deal with the suppliers. I would say these are all two important pain points in the supply chain process.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you so much. Kumar, over to you. What would be your views on the current pain areas that's being faced by the supply chain today?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sri, and thanks, Suresh, and good afternoon and welcome everyone for the session. I think first and foremost, if we step back and look at the current scenario, there seems to be a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the marketplace, right? On one side, demand is tremendously impacted, and on the other side, supply is also impacted. So it's shrinking on both ends. And as per Rand Corporation's survey, by late March, early April, 43% of businesses were already severely struggling with their supply chain. There was something called a supply chain lag, and this is becoming more and more evident now, because while parts of the world are coming out of the crisis, other parts of the world are actually still in the crisis, or they are actually peaking only now. So it's becoming like a problem that is moving geographically, but it's not going away. The second major challenge companies have been facing consistently, I don't think this is the only scenario in which this has occurred, but this has been a case for some time now, which is to conserve cash flow. It's time to keep the operations running, which is becoming more and more challenging in the current scenario, because cash flow is getting more and more impaired. So organizations, especially in the supply chain area, are needing to prioritize, whom can I service, whom should I deprioritize, how do I get things moving? And then there are impacts not just felt within suppliers, that's across the entire supply chain. Logistics is in trouble, customs and clearance and shipping is in trouble. As a result, the entire chain is broken. And because of this, there is a hit on quality, while at the same time costs are going up. So you are getting lower quality, inputs, but at a higher cost. And situation is still evolving. So in this evolving situation, I think the biggest pain companies are facing is, do we have a plan A, a plan B, or a plan C maybe multiple plans to address these pains and come out of it successfully. I think this is where I see the biggest challenges today, and I guess we will talk a bit more about each of these areas as we go along.
Well, that sounds very interesting and challenging, and I see an opportunity in those areas as well. Thanks for sharing the insights, Kumar. Suresh, where would you see the potential solutions considering the disruptions are likely to continue for some time, or what is in your thought process? How do you take this as a next step?
Thanks, Sri. Thanks, Kumar. And if you look at the reasons for disruption, right? Currently, it is all the pandemic, but at the same time, there are different reasons for this kind of disruptions. And it happened in the past as well, right? It could be natural disasters, or let's say that actually it could be transportation failures, overall price fluctuation, could be any of those things, right? The question is basically, how do we prepare ourselves for this unexpected, right? And that is where we have to be ready with. And what do we do in terms of preparing for ourselves, right? And definitely, one of the important thing is create a supply chain emergency plan. And that is, if you look at most of the organization, once they get to know that there is an issue, crisis, then they react to that rather than having a proactive approach in terms of what we should do in case of that kind of a situation, right? It can happen anytime, right? It happened in the past, it may happen in the future as well, right? And preparing an emergency plan in terms of process, procedures, and what we should do, how we should react to this kind of situation. It is important to have that kind of emergency plan. The second important thing is basically always, it is important for any organization to do a supply chain vulnerability audit, right? And in case how vulnerable we are, and in case of that kind of a situation, what we should do in terms of managing that, actually that kind of audit is to be done, and we should be aware of what kind of exposure we have it, right? And we have already seen during the COVID, right, when it started, many of the organizations are relying on China, especially for the components, right? Electronics, or let's say that actually a country like India, almost 95% of the active ingredients for the pharmaceutical or the medicine is being imported from China, right? So it is important for us to know what is our exposure, and without the help of technology, it is very difficult for us to get this kind of details, right? And we always have to prepare ourselves by having backup suppliers, actually, right? Okay, I have an exposure to this particular country, and I'm not going to receive materials from there. So if I have backup suppliers, it is immediately I can plan for the other thing, right? It is not that actually I'm completely stuck, I'm going to stop my production, I cannot meet my commitment to my customers, right? The entire supply chain will get disrupted actually if you don't have proper backup suppliers, actually, right? It is also important for you to have a diversified supplier base, right? It should not be dependent on one country, right? It could be because of many reasons. One is basically probably the pandemic or any kind of that natural disaster, those kind of things which none of us can predict, right? But at the same time, there are situations like currency fluctuation, right? Let's say I'm completely dependent on one country, and all of a sudden the currency is getting stronger and stronger, my cost is going to go up, right? So it is important for me to have a diversified base as well as backup suppliers. It is very important. And also the other thing is like, partner with logistics expert and plan for those kind of eventualities. So that is what we should be prepared for. And I would say this is what from our side, what kind of preparations we should do to overcome as well as face this kind of situations in future.
Perfect, Suresh. Thank you so much. It's more like a de-risking or a risk mitigation plans. Kumar, what would be your views, Kumar, in line with this?
I think I'll just add a few things beyond what Suresh is saying. Reducing risk is prime importance. 6 months or 8 months ago, everybody was talking about reducing cost, right? Improving speed. But now reducing risk, which was maybe at third place or fourth place, has jumped suddenly to the first place. Enhancing flexibility of the supply chain is another very, very important point, right? So as Suresh was mentioning, have multiple options, but having multiple options without due diligence is also risk prone. I'll just give you example, a real life example, which happened to a very large automotive OEM. They had 3 different suppliers to supply their powertrain. Powertrain, when I say engines and gearboxes, right? And they were coming from 3 totally different suppliers. So they thought we are safe and we are mitigating our risks. There's not going to be a problem. Unfortunately, all the 3 suppliers were buying components from tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers, all of them from a single area of a single country. So when there was a massive natural disaster in that country, all the engine plants were completely flooded, and then this automotive OEM lost $1.5 billion in a single financial year. You can imagine the amount of exposure that their balance sheet has taken, because they didn't do the due diligence to the 2nd or 3rd tier supplier. This is a massive risk that technology could potentially solve. Okay, the other thing is to be not just doing it once and leaving it. You've got to revisit these options on a timely basis. I have another example of an extremely large auto supplier. They have done, the moment they realize that supply chains are getting disrupted because of COVID-19, they have 12,000 plus suppliers. They did an entire supplier base audit in less than a month. And this is very important, and you in the current scenario where situations are so fluid, you got to do it repetitively. The third is to increase agility. Now, agility is also having lean processes, being able to know whom to go to, what, in what scenario, what are my exceptions, what are my go-to suppliers in scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, how responsive will I be when something happens in a particular geography or for a particular currency, or what are my ground rules that I can deploy across my entire team, not just at a single point of failure place. This will mitigate the risk to a large extent. I mean, these are some examples, and we will dwell on more on the technological side of examples as we go along. Back to you, Sri.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Kumar. Suresh, the de-risking or risk mitigation to a large extent is the vital point both of you were touching upon, and the points are very, very interesting. As a next, curiosity from my mind, when you say, to what extent technology can help us in addressing the supplier-related issues? Say, for example, one of my customers faced some problems. Say, for example, the demand supply management, he has so much of demand, and he has a list of suppliers. So the parameters basically he would like to compute in terms of Incoterms, probably the quality of delivery, time to delivery, so on and so forth. There are like multitude of parameters he has been holding, like how do I place my contract with a specific supplier was a curiosity. So again, the parts are named, probably the same part is called in different names. Ideally you would get the same part, but different geographies, they had different information systems within the place. So I think it's all islands of information without any proper connectivity. So is there a way you can think through a technology-based approach to take some of these challenges? Because they're quite obvious. This is something I faced myself in one of the implementations previously. Suresh, would you like to take up this point from your side?
Yeah, sure, Sri. Actually, it's a good point, right? If you look at it, that is the whole reason I've started with the importance of technology in making the supply chain process more agile and let's say efficient, right? And technology can play a larger role, a very big role, actually, a vital role in bringing efficiency and making the supply chain process very lean, right? We can look at different points. It's the same example what we talked about, right? This is what our experience as well. Now, especially customers where there is multiple entities in multiple countries, right? Or companies where multiple offices and factories and plants are across the globe, where most of these companies the group acquired several companies, and many of them have their own systems, right? They may not have a standard global platform, right? Which is all in an enterprise level platform. Think about the kind of difficulties what they have. For the same part, probably you may see that actually each country, they have different prices, right? And each one is spending time in terms of shortlisting suppliers, getting into contract. think about the same time, how much time is being the time is being wasted in doing the similar activities again and again, right? And we are not able to make use of the effort what is been already spent by someone else, some of our colleagues, right? And though it is a single organization. And do you think you can, as humans, we will be able to do without help of technology? How do we consolidate the whole demand and get the benefit of economy of scale, right? And as well as having a larger volume, you will be able to negotiate with the supplier, get a better price, right? And get a better value. Forget about the price. Get a better value when it comes to the quality, with the supplier respecting your request in terms of the lead time and all of the kind of things, right? There are a lot of things which you can take into consideration. And in addition to that, technology can be used to evaluate potential threat as well, right? You know that actually AI as well as aggregate apps that even help us to understand geopolitical events, right? So technology can play a larger role. The another important thing is basically analytics, right? The role of analytics is very, very, very important. Actually, I don't have to repeat the kind of important role what analytics are playing in decision making these days, right? And analytics help you in terms of identifying my risk, right? Especially with the exposure what I have to different countries, right? And analytics can be used in terms of understanding the savings as well as other areas as well. So especially predictive analytics and all of the kind of things really help you to understand what is my exposure, what kind of risk mitigation plans I need to work out, so on and so forth, right? And another important aspect is basically how do we, how long does it take in terms of onboarding a supplier, completing the whole sourcing events actually, right? In a manual world actually, right? You keep creating spreadsheets and send it to different suppliers, supplier respond to that. You may have 20, 15 questions, and having a weightage and what is relevant for you in terms of decision making, right? And which supplier you have to work with. This is always with in a world where we don't have a strategic procurement in nature, right? But it is so much, it's really time consuming, and it is not easy for somebody to do it, execute it without the help of technology. I would say technology has got a very big role to play in making supply chain more efficient, agile, and lean.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Suresh. So one of the interesting points you touched upon is like, organizations as they grow with organic or inorganic acquisitions, basically the way they integrate internal operations, the way they have a reasonably acceptable nomenclature of these parts, the way they conventionally treat their suppliers, or so do we speak, the information systems, they need a very meticulous way to manage certain things. So Kumar, what would be your viewpoint in line with the usage of technology in this scheme of things?
Yeah, absolutely agree, with what I've been hearing so far. Very, very valid points. And it is also supported very, very strongly by what's happening in the world as well. IDC has been evaluating this entire procurement and source to procure and strategic sourcing market for at least a couple of decades now, right? And what they have seen is that it's in the last 2-3 years, it has exploded beyond all expectations. It's already a $4 billion industry, and it's growing much faster than any other digitization initiatives in the B2B space. So whether it is enterprise resource planning or any other digitization initiatives, sourcing and procurement is growing faster than that. So it's likely to grow into a $9 to $10 billion industry very, very soon. Okay. There is a reason for that. Okay, there are multiple levels at which technology makes sourcing and procurement agile and more successful, improves the value to the company, and improves the bottom line. Everything is a direct impact, right? The sourcing professionals know everything they do has a direct impact on the company's profitability. The first step is automation. Automation is equal to basic digitization. It is equal to a paperless office. There are fundamental advantages going there itself, right? We already talked about just a few minutes ago, eliminating this compilation of results, giving weightages, selecting the most valuable supplier for this particular context, and so on and so forth. This is the first level. The second level and the third level is the most interesting level, because again, here Everest Group has found 60 to 80% additional savings can be accrued if we go for automation of risk identification, compliance, internal compliance, as well as external compliance. Any supply chain or sourcing professional will know sitting in a sourcing audit is probably the biggest pain they undergo. Now, if technology is in place, this whole thing is available at the click of a button, right? And then you have reducing fragmentation of your data. Your data is in multiple systems, in somebody's computer, in an ERP here and a ERP there. It's across different subject matter experts for different commodities. All this getting defragmented, getting unified, getting really increasing data integrity and leveraging the power of data. That is the next level. And then you have strategic sourcing itself, using the combination of the above, using deep analytics, deep automation, creating fluid and flexible supply chain organizations with the use of very, very easily configurable workflows, using fuzzy search to identify the problem you spoke about earlier. You were talking about, like Suresh was mentioning, right? You have parts with different nomenclatures and different ERP systems. You mentioned about your customer struggling to find out what price point they are buying what. All this can be made a reality, and decision making dramatically improves. And this can lead to 60 to 80% additional savings. So if a sourcing team has been tasked with showing a 1.5% or a 2% improvement every year, this can actually take it to comfortably over 2% without that much additional efforts. This is the most important part, right? You put infinite amount of effort, but then the savings are washed out by the effort you put. But if technology can help you, this is a fantastic outcome. And the conclusion is that do not compromise on digital transformation. Don't stop halfway by doing some basic automation. Go all the way. Use the power of data, use the power of analytics, use power of workflows, flexible and agile workflows, and achieve the best results.
That's interesting, Kumar. Thank you very much for the insight. I actually heard both of you were telling a similar pattern in terms of getting this done in an agile way. Would you please throw some light about it? You spoke about agility for the procurement team, basically. Suresh, would you like to throw some light on that particular topic?
Absolutely, Sri. See, when it comes to agility, there are multiple aspects, right? If you look at it, the focus on organizations these days, earlier, what used to be the biggest strength you need to have to work in a procurement team, right? Probably the negotiation skills, right? That has been completely changed. Now the focus is more about people are recruiting people with the data science capability, right? People who knows technology really well, right? It's not about price. It's all about actually, what value you are going to get it, how agile the whole process can be, right? So it's all about actually align your procurement skills to match what is the changing industry needs. That's very important, right? And how do we make the process very agile? Again, technology can play a huge role in making the process agile as well, right? And rather than you adopting or using the traditional way of doing procurement, take the advantage of or ability, leverage the capability of technology, and make the process very agile, and rather than going through the traditional way. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. Kumar, would you like to touch upon the point towards the agility for the procurement team?
Absolutely, Shri. I'll probably give you an example that I actually saw very recently for one of my customers. This probably explains it more than any other, post this disruption in the last 6 months, they got an urgent request from their executive leadership: renegotiate payment terms across all suppliers. And we are talking about 12,000, 13,000 suppliers as soon as possible and get it to this point. Okay, they wanted the payment terms because cash is king. They wanted to protect obviously the cash in this current scenario. Using technology, they were able to audit every single payment term on record and send out negotiation request and complete the entire process in 12 days. It's unimaginable. If you look at this kind of a scenario without technology, it's probably at the most an annual exercise, right? You do your annual negotiation, you also include one or two topics on payment terms, Incoterms, and packaging, and say, okay, yeah, you know what about this, what about this? It's treated as icing on the cake. But in an emergency situation, when your cash flow has to be restricted and protected, it becomes very critical, right? This is this is the power of technology, and it can eliminate months of work. Another typical example is your annual exercise of supplier evaluation. Usually, if you have a large number of suppliers, it is a huge pain, because the suppliers can have multiple legal entities. Each legal entity does X percentage of business. You aggregate all that, you have an Excel sheet with thousands of rows. It all gets consolidated, and then finally you say, hey, Mr. Supplier, I did so much business with you last year, and you know what, we are expecting to do even more business this year. Let's sit down and talk, right? What if this was available to you on an everyday basis? You don't need to do any of these exercises, and the system can throw up the numbers. Okay, this is my supplier group, this is the hierarchy of legal entities, and totally I did this many millions of business with you last year. You know what, it's time to sit down and talk about something better. This is our roadmap. These are the kind of things which from months we are talking about, just in a day or two you can achieve. This is what agility is really, when you use technology to your best advantage. And we have our Merlin solution, which has actually done this time and again in multiple scenarios. And what we are talking about, a traditional process to what it is now in the organizations where it is used, there is a sea of change in terms of how agile the teams are, how much they can give as a throughput in a single year, right? From X to 2X very easily.
Yeah, Kumar, I think actually one point for me to add there. If you look at it, people may think, right? Hey, just renegotiating a payment terms, what has got technology to do, right? And probably, if you look at it, just going and renegotiating a payment term is not easy, right? It is important for me to do necessary analysis in terms of changing the payment term from 30 days to 60 days. What kind of benefits am I going to get? Looking at the past procurement I have done, the amount of money I spend, right? Look at the bank finance charges, all these different aspects to be considered before taking a decision, right? And you may also get a lot of requests, especially these times, from your vendors. Hey, why don't you change the 90 days payment term to 30 days, right? Yeah, it is easy for us to somebody ask for it and change it, but it is important for me to understand what my exposure is, right? The second point, what you talked about, Kumar, is supplier performance, right? It's an interesting aspect again. Hey, what is there to do supplier performance analysis? How difficult is it, right? In many organizations, from what my experience is, what they are doing is they typically set up a weightage, right? Let's say that actually, okay, price has got 50% of the weightage, right? And quality has got 20% of the weightage. On-time delivery has got 20% of the weightage, right? Then probably the technical capability. So you set up the weightage, and based on those parameters, you do an ongoing regular performance analysis of the suppliers, right? And what I have seen with some of my customers, they do, especially in supply chain, there's a lot of importance and focus is being given to SIFOT and DIFOT, right? SIFOT is nothing but supply in full on time. DIFOT is deliver in full on time, right? The on-time delivery and full delivery on time has got a very important kind of a very larger role to play when it comes to analyzing suppliers and our efficiency in terms overall from a supply chain point of view.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Gentlemen, that has been a wonderful insight. So based on what you both of you were telling, my customer would have certainly gone for a unified system wherein Suresh was touching upon certain AI-based systems, and the numbering or the similarity nomenclature of the parts basically can certainly be taken care by means of natural language processing or any similar stuff in terms of taking the right names or the right parts so that there are no duplications or whatsoever, whether it is intentionally or malicious, whatever way it is. So certainly technology plays a role here, and also unifying the ERPs, as you touched upon, Kumar, because global companies, due to different types of acquisitions, may have different ERPs across different countries. So it is very important for them to stay connected and unify their procurement platform as well, so that the rules, the agility points you were mentioning in terms of the workflow, in terms of certain best practices on the standardization of your procurement management or a supplier relationship perspective, they are quite important. The technology and overall operations go hand in hand is something I would like to take away on the particular context. And very interesting insights, both of you. Suresh, would you be able to summarize the critical areas we need to watch out for next 1 year, considering the current situation where things kind of move towards? So would you be able to summarize the critical areas?
Sure, Sri. Kind of, it is really important, right? How do we prepare ourselves for the upcoming years, right? That's very important. As I said earlier, there is a huge shift in terms of the skill set required to do an efficient procurement, right? And I would say, to bring in efficiency over there, there are a lot of focus changes in terms of what kind of people do we need there, and do we have the right skill set in terms of working with the suppliers and to make them more strategic in nature and get the best value out of it, right? The second important thing is basically do a continuous performance analysis for the suppliers. And the performance analysis is one area, because especially due to this situation, you may see many people are running out of business, or you say that actually there's a lot of consolidation is going to happen in the industry, right? And it is important for us to keep an eye on those things and say, get ourselves prepared for that as well. And we always have to try and get the best value, I would say more value, from existing suppliers through supplier relationship management, right? With the help of supplier relationship management, again, technology has got a larger role to play there. So existing suppliers are there, we keep buying commodities from there, but how do we get a better value from those kind of suppliers is what we need to work on. And without the help of supplier relationship management and technology, it is not very easy to get there, right? And these are all some areas which we have to watch out, especially in the upcoming years. And many organizations are keeping procurement as in their top list, actually, when it comes to their strategy for in the upcoming years.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you so much. Kumar, would you like to summarize the critical areas according to your point of view? Would you like to complement some of these items mentioned by Suresh?
Absolutely. I just want to add just a couple of very, specific points, okay? The most important thing in the current scenario, and I think this scenario is likely to be what it is the business is going to get used to, because we have seen so many multiple disruptions, right? Whether it's oil price, or whether it is COVID now, whether it was the trade war last year. There are it seems like it's become a status quo, that status quo is no longer existing. In that scenario, a governance framework to manage sourcing is very important. It can be as simple as following a QCDDM, that quality, cost, development, delivery, and management. Can this supplier match my quality? What is the quality expectation I have? Am I governing that? Am I evaluating that? I am verifying that. Cost, what is the optimal cost for me? Because you see, the world is becoming value driven, right? So only going for best cost could actually be detrimental in the long term, because it could impact delivery or development. Delivery, they may not be on time, they may commit to some kind of a remarkable price, but timely deliveries don't happen, and they don't have any money left to do development. So they are not improving their processes, they are not improving their shop floor, they are not giving you better products year over year. And management, does this supplier's management share my vision, and can we work together in the medium term and long term? Because it's all about creating a very, very synergistic ecosystem together. So this is very important. And all of this, if can I undertake some kind of innovation or initiatives which will help me implement this. I think these are the two critical areas. If they can be addressed, it will prepare enterprises better for the coming, continuous fluidity and flux that we're seeing in the marketplace.
Thank you so much, Kumar. I would probably have the next set of observation from you as well. You can start. One of the key thing our audience would be interested so far from what we have discussed is to know some emerging strategic trends in 2021. So would you please initiate a thought process or a thought leadership in line with that, Kumar?
Sure. I think we have kind of talked about this in various parts of the conversation. I'll kind of bring it all, in a summary, at least. Firstly, a best-in-class solution is going to take precedent over end-to-end solution, because end-to-end solutions may give you a lot of coverage, but they don't solve the problems that you're facing today, because many of them underplay on the analytics side, or they underplay on integration with your ERP or whatever be, a one size fits all will not work. The world is moving towards integration and of best-in-class solutions to give most favorable outcomes for you for taking the right decision at the right place at the right time. The second is effective usage of ARP, AI, NLP, and fuzzy search. I already gave an example, right? I'll add a few more examples to make this a little clear. Who is my best value supplier within my entire supplier base? Okay, the answers may sometimes really surprise you. Which currency is going to work best for me in the second half of 2021? Should I place my purchase orders in dollars or whatever? Can my system support me with that kind of decision making? Which region is likely to be least risky for me to source from 2 quarters or 4 quarters from now? These are all some examples. Defragment your data, check your data integrity, achieve an ability to search for these important pieces of information within the data that you have. Use them to your best advantage. I think this is going to be where the trends and the tools of today, which are now ready for enterprises to use. They were buzzwords, even as recently a year or two ago. These are now all ready to deploy and ready to use, and I think enterprises should be making the best use of them.
Excellent, Kumar. Thank you very much. Suresh, according to you, what would be something we need to be watched after for 2021 from a sourcing trend perspective? Would you be able to provide your insights?
Sure. And as I was saying earlier, right, having most of the organizations are trying to have some digital transformation initiative, right? Having a digital strategy is going to be one of the a key trend for 2021 and beyond, right? Especially big data analytics, as Kumar said, natural language processing, NLPs, machine learning, right? And especially AI and robotic process automation, especially to automate many of the run-of-the-mill procurement tasks, right? How to handle large volume of orders, actually, right? Or look at to automate, let's say that actually running repetitive procurement tasks. Those areas you can leverage the capabilities of RPAs and AIs, right? So use that, have a digital strategy. Start your digital transformation initiative today is going to be one of the trend, right? And you will see that actually many organizations are going to follow that. And you need to have, as Kumar said, a system. These days, everybody is going for best of breed applications, right? So having an application or a system which supports the end-to-end procurement needs, right? Let's say that actually the entire source to procure. Let's say that actually post which it is all about the ERPs and financial system which you handle. But having a source to procure system to manage these things I would say that actually many organizations are driving towards that. That is going to be one of the huge trend, right? And the second thing is basically start thinking about suppliers beyond price, right? It is not about just price. You have to do continuous performance evaluation, identify the right supplier, develop the supplier, and make them more strategic, right? That is what people are doing today. And you need to have technology again in terms of doing that, right? The next could be the risk management, right? Especially Kumar was talking about that quite a bit, but the risk management strategy is another thing which is going to be one of the key trends over here, right? Especially if you look at it in the past, we had Brexit. Then, as Kumar said, we had the trade war between China and let's say America. Then we have the fuel price. The fuel price is falling actually in the Middle East. Then we have the COVID, right? So it is all about a lot of unexpected things actually, and it's all about how do we prepare for the unexpected is another key things actually, and that is where many of the organizations are going to spend time as well, right? And these are all some of the important trend it's going to be there in the I would say that actually the supply chain area in the coming years actually.
Thank you so much, Suresh and Kumar. Wonderful insights. I will speak about Reinbrücker for a couple of minutes, and probably we would take few questions that's being posted from our audience. Thank you very much for providing your detailed insights. And about Reinbrücker, we changed the status quo, and the aspiration is to grow by providing innovative solutions. We have a very strong mid-market model. We have a very strong global network, and we source right in order to provide a cutting-edge solution across the globe. Reinbrücker is a global company with a strong presence in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We are constantly focused on the mid-market with a strong multicultural and multilingual team that understands your regional needs. We have 4 delivery pillars of expertise. They are product development, ERP on the cloud, surround IT, and consulting advisory services. In the first pillar, one of our flagship products is Merlin, which is a strategic sourcing solution that offers seamlessly integrated sourcing process automation along with supplier relationship management and planning functions, which is completely augmented by advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. It plays a pivotal role in enhancing collaboration between your buyers and suppliers through an intuitive platform. The other product we develop is Brücker, that offers a collaborative platform between employee community, especially in the current business context, where empowering employees to work from the virtual office. The third product we offer is expense management solution over the cloud, which is called Expensa. Talking about the second pillar of excellence in Reinbrücker is ERP on cloud. Reinbrücker is Epicor Platinum Partner and 2 times winner of International Partner of the Year. We have immense experience and expertise in providing Epicor implementation and support services to our global customers for the past 7 years. We have executed projects in more than 30 countries and have 250 plus associates serving 5 of the global Fortune 500 companies, and are proud to be serving our happy customers across these locations. The third pillar is connecting the enterprise together, which is Surround IT. And we are a Microsoft Global Competency partner, delivering solutions in the space of IoT, BI, e-commerce portals, web and mobile applications. The fourth pillar of our expertise is consulting and advisory services, wherein we leverage our industry experts from supply chain, manufacturing, and provide portfolio rationalization, optimization, and other value-added services. We believe that business can achieve the desired performance when IT is aligned to business strategy and operational business needs. Delivering value to your business is a mandate of every CIO and IT organization. We create a truly unique value proposition through our cutting-edge solutions that leverage global cost models and best-in-class service by local experts. I would take few questions that has been offered by our audience, and Kumar and Suresh, please help us to touch base with us. Question number one, we heard you mention Maryland. I have a supplier base of several hundreds, and I'm okay not able to track the business I do with each, as some have multiple legal entities. Can you please touch up this particular question?
Sure. I think it's a good, interesting question, right? Return on investment, actually, how do we get the return on investment? How do we calculate the return on investment? And especially with technology and whatever we are proposing, right? And there is a science behind it, right? It is not that we just talk about return on investment. And if you look at it, currently, the process what you're doing it, right? Let's say certain steps. So how long does it take in terms of responding to a customer request, or let's say an internal request for a price, or let's say that actually how long does it take in terms of raising a requisition to place the purchase order, right? How long does it take in terms of onboarding a supplier today, right? And let's say that actually there are several such questions actually we have, and we definitely have what kind of how long does it take, and what is going to be the change. I would say once you have such a system, once you have the necessary infrastructure and technology, how it is going to be improved and how long it is going to take, right? And we have all these statistics ready. And once you have that statistics available, there are tools, and we have done a session sometime back on how to calculate return on investment. We have developed a tool in terms of calculating return on investment by looking at what is the current cost you are incurring, as well as what is going to be the situation. And once you have such a system in place, and how things are going to be improved, what's the cost we are going to what is our cost today, and what is going to be the changed world, right? Looking at all these things, actually, the system, the tool can calculate the return on investment and very easily help you. And you can look at those different parameters, right? One is the, let's say today you have 10 RFQs, responses from suppliers. How long does it take for you to evaluate all those things and let's say take a decision? And that is going to be completely automated once you have a system in place. You can set up weightage and score for each of the relevant questions what you're raising, and once the response is there, the system is going to straight away give you the results and suggest you the supplier which you can go ahead, right? And also you can have knockout questions, and you can say that actually the knockout questions, as long as the supplier is not answering, I can straight away disqualify them, right? All those manual exercise what we are doing in terms of typically evaluating and shortlisting a supplier can be fully automated, right? So these are all different ROI components which you can really calculate and tell you what kind of ROI we are going to get from this kind of solutions. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh.
I just want to add a point, Suresh, to this. Just to break it down, I think into the segments that you were talking, I just wanted to summarize that. One is, what is the current throughput of my sourcing team? If I implement this solution, what is going to be the extra throughput that my sourcing team can achieve? What is the current saving my sourcing team is achieving every year? What is the extra saving I can achieve by implementing technology? And the third is, what is the turnaround time today of my various transactions? Creating and issuing RFPs, evaluating RFPs, releasing a purchase order, so on and so forth. What will be the reduced time or the new time? So we are talking about greater throughput, faster time to respond, and better savings. These are the three fundamental components. Suresh elaborated. I'm just kind of summarizing it into the three buckets so that it's easy to visualize it if you're looking back. I think this question was from Gauri, so I hope we answered it.
Yeah, thank you, Kumar. Thank you, Suresh. The second question is from Kaushik. With respect to technology, how can analytics help us? What metrics needs to be measured and monitored?
Yeah. Suresh, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Now, we talked about analytics, right? What role analytics can play in the overall supply chain, making it lean and agile, right? Now, as I said, one of the key examples, when this COVID started, right? Now, many organizations wanted to see their exposure and what kind of commodities they procure and what kind of exposure they have with China, right? So if they know what is your exposure, what kind of issues you are going to face, naturally you can plan for an alternative, right? And it is not easy for you to look at these analysis without having analytics support and help, right? The second could be you can also look at information, especially when it comes to, let's say, as you said earlier, Stream, a consolidated situation, right? You have companies and factories in different part of the world, and they all do local procurement, actually, right? How do I bring the consolidated view and see that actually using the economy of scale, how do I get a better price from my suppliers, actually better value from my suppliers, right? And naturally, any supplier will be keen to deal with you when they see the meat of it, right? And especially the volume of transaction you are going to make with them, right? And again, you need the analytics, and the analytics can help you in terms of looking at those information, right? Again, what kind of contracts you have it, how many contracts you have it, the performance of such contracts, and all these different areas technology can help. And when it comes to the predictive analytics, you can use that as well in terms of looking at the market trend. You can bring it in. You can say the currency market, you can take data from there. What is going to be my, what I need to do in terms of reacting to any unexpected event from the market? That is where I can use the analytics to measure or plan for it, as well as definitely I can measure from a my savings point of view, definitely from what kind of forecast I have it, what could be the forecasted savings. I will be able to measure those things as well, and you can definitely see performance of each buyer, right? Let's say you may have different buyers in the organization, and who is performing well, especially in terms of getting a better price, getting a better value when we deal with different suppliers, right? So in terms of the organizational performance as a procurement team, the performance plus each and every buyers, how they are performing. And you also will be able to look at overall from an organization, from a where, right? Because you may have different processes. You may be taking 5 hours to get a supplier on board, or else say 15 days to get a supplier on board. Now, realistically, we don't know actually where do we have bottlenecks. Actually, it is important for us to use the technology, use the analytics to identify where the bottleneck is. Then we can work towards addressing those things, actually, right?
Cool. Thank you, Suresh. That was very nice. Next is a little broader question. I think we have spoken about it, but still, what are the main challenges supply chain teams are facing, and how many of these problems can technology solve? I think you had discussed this in length, but still, would you like to touch upon certain specific issues, or the technology solutions, basically how they can be addressed from a technology standpoint?
So
maybe if you can quote 1 or 2 cases.
Okay, sure. I think we are, in the interest of time, probably I'll keep this very short. Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the simplest things that technology can help you with is identifying if you are sourcing too much from a single supplier. Okay. This is very relevant in today's scenario. That's why I'm quoting this example, because this can significantly increase your risks. The other thing is, which supplier is persistently making delayed shipments, or we are facing challenges with any specific supplier. Very easy to identify with analytics. So these are some examples. And then the third is, can I quickly switch from one supplier to a different supplier, identify an alternate supplier or an alternate item which matches closely to this item, so that I don't need to stop my production or stop my organization's workflow, right? So again, this is very easily doable with technology. So I'll stop at this, because I think we are like almost out of time.
Excellent. Thank you, Kumar. The next question is from Gauri again. Interesting panel discussion. How can we keep track of risks associated with suppliers? Can you give some examples also how we can minimize the disruption and at the same time ensure profitability? How to control the cost of risk? It's a very specific question. Would you want to take this up, Suresh?
Sure. Good question, Gauri. If you look at it, first of all, what kind of risk and how does the system help you in terms of identifying risk, managing risk, or mitigating risk, right? Now, take a simple example. As I said earlier, there was an analysis which is called CIFO, right? Now, there is always supply in full on time, right? If you see that actually there is a general trend from certain suppliers that they don't ship full on time. They either do partial shipment, they don't adhere to the timelines what we are giving. So when we see that kind of situation, and system can trigger as a risk, and you can create a risk register within the application. And once you have the risk register, you can pretty much manage that risk, what is to be done. It could be identifying a alternative supplier. It could be probably you may have another situation because a frequent transport or logistics provider is causing the delay. So you can create a risk from there as well, and you can again create a risk register within the application, right? And it could be the price, right? In many of the strategic procurement areas, people normally not only get price for this year, they also get commitment from the supplier to reduce the price in the upcoming years, actually, especially that is how the strategic procurement works, right? It's as and when you become efficient, your processes become more lean and efficient, you will share the savings with me as well. So there is an upfront commitment from the suppliers for the future years. And when you see that actually suppliers are not kind of respecting that, then you can again see risk. And these are all different risks you can see in different areas, right? And how do we plan for it? As I said earlier, you always have to plan for the unexpected, right? Today it is COVID, tomorrow it's something else, we don't know. So the more and more we are ready to face the unexpected is going to make us more stronger. And how do we make how do we plan for unexpected? That is more in terms of having additional suppliers, having a diversified supplier base, and that is how we can plan for the unexpected, and so the risk can be mitigated with a clear plan.
Thank you, Suresh. Thanks a lot. I think we probably
just want to add a point. Sorry, Sri. Suresh. Just want to add. I think she also asked an interesting question about cost of risk. I just wanted to mention, since we do not have time, it's a very interesting topic. Dr. Carlos Alvarenga has written a very nice blog on this, and it is there in our blog site. He's an adjunct professor in University of Maryland, and he specializes in cost of risk. You can read more about it in the blog. You'll find it very good reading. It's a big topic, so I think for want of time, we may not be able to cover it today. Maybe we do a session.
Interesting session, and thank you very much, Kumar. Thank you very much, Suresh. Thanks for the insights. We would be providing a link to the recorded webinar later. Please watch out for the communications and watch the space for more knowledge dissemination session from Ryan Brooker's team. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks,
you've been a great audience. Yeah. Thanks, Suresh. Thanks, Sri. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.